click on the subscribe button, and press the bell icon, to never miss any updates.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم. My name is Suzy Ismail and I'm here with you to talk about our series of Cornerstone Connections, learning how to connect with our Creator, to connect with ourselves, to connect with our faith, our family, our friends, and our community. The topic we're going to talk about today is how do we connect with our community and what does that actually mean? When we think of our communities, we often think of closest friends. We think of those that we see in the masjid. We think of those that live nearby to us. But the community is much wider than that. The community encompasses all those that we interact with, all those that we come into contact with that build that sense of social network that we have. So our community may be an extension, essentially, of ourselves, in that we see ourselves reflected in the community. When we look at what makes a successful community and our ability to connect with a successful community, we begin to understand the community of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how that can connect to our own worlds and how we can build our own communities in the same way. When we look at the time of the Hijrah, when the Muhajirin entered into Medina from Mecca, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam implemented something that is known as the Pact of Brotherhood, in which the Ansar were encouraged to adopt essentially one of the Muhajirin to be like their brother. And the Muhajirin and the Ansar lived together, learned from one another, recognized the differences in each other's community practices, but did not put each other down, did not harm one another. Instead, they lived together in harmony. Today, for many of us, we are either immigrants to our communities, our parents may be immigrants, our grandparents may be immigrants, and so very much like that first immigration in the Hijrah, we have entered into communities and spaces where we may sometimes feel like we're different, where our children may sometimes feel like they're being ostracized, where there may be a sense of standing on the fringes looking in. But again, we have the remedy as to how we can connect with our communities in our deen. We see that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam would reach out to community members, both Muslim and non-Muslim, would connect with them, would visit the sick, would take care of the poor and the orphan, would ensure that those around him felt the barakah of what it means to be a Muslim, that compassion was acted upon. So within our own communities today, we need to ask ourselves, what am I doing to connect with my community? Am I reaching out to those who are sick, those who are needy, those who are poor, those who are struggling? Am I trying to better understand the practices and engage with my community on more than just the level of exclusion, where I might only define my community as my local masjid or my ethnic background individuals that share that same ethnic background? Because our community is much wider than that. And in order to really connect with our community, we have to recognize how the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam facilitated that connection by building a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood between those in the community, the residents of the community who have been there for a long time, and those newly entering into the community. Find your community centers. Visit your libraries, visit your masajid, but also visit the spaces of interfaith, where different cultures come together to connect, different faith backgrounds come together to connect, to understand one another. Because this is our Islam, this is our deen. It is not about isolation, it is not about closing ourselves off and refusing to connect with others. It's about opening our doors, welcoming those in our communities, whether they are different from us or they are the same, understanding, building a sense of compassion that connects us. And that compassion is something that is rooted in empathy, being able to have that empathy to understand what others are going through and to show that sense of empathy. When we look at the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we see that he was most beloved to everyone around him. There's a beautiful narration of Amr ibn al-As, who said he felt so beloved to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam that once he wanted to ask him for confirmation in that level of love that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam had for him. So he had completed some tasks that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam had asked him for, and he entered into the masjid and he found the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam sitting alone. And so he went up to him and asked him, "Man ahabba laka ya Rasulullah?" Who is the most beloved to you, O Prophet of Allah? Now imagine the level of confidence that someone must have had in the empathy and the love of the Prophet to ask that question. Because of course he assumed that the response would be, "Oh, it's you," because he wanted that confirmation or that affirmation. And upon asking that question, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam responded and said, "Aisha." And so Amr ibn al-As understood and he said, okay, maybe that's because that's his wife and that's one of the women folk. So he asked again and said, who from the men? And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam answered again and said, her father. And so again Amr ibn al-As said, okay, well, maybe that's because it's family. And so he asked again, he said, then who? And then the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam listed another Sahabi. And he said, then who? And there was another Sahabi. And in the narration, Amr ibn al-As responds and says that he stopped asking after some point because he feared that he would be far on that list. Because this is how we build a sense of community where there is a connection between individuals, that they feel like they are the most beloved to you, and that they are the most beloved to you because of your actions, because of your words, because of your kindness. And this is how we become the most beloved to others as well. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses our communities, allows us to be tools of good and benefit and kindness to all of our communities, and brings us closer together as an ummah. Jazakum Allahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum.
ITV, Call of Peace, Save Humanity.